Hello mates, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, this channel is all about sewing. If you want to learn how to make clothes at the comfort of your homes, you want to hit on the subscribe button and turn on your post notifications to get notified whenever I post a new tutorial. In today's tutorial, we'll be creating this beautiful jumpsuit. This is a tuck cinched waist jumpsuit. So what we have by the sides are the inspiration, and as you can see here in the middle, this is what I recreated. We are going to be having a freehand cutting tutorial. I know a lot of you love it. Now let me tell you, it doesn't matter if you've ever made anything before. If you're interested in this and you want to make it for yourself, I'll be taking you through every process you need to create this. If you'd love to learn how to make this, stick with me to the end of this tutorial and let's get started. Now as you can see here, I've already gone ahead to place both my back piece and my front piece on fold, and I already ruled my starting line at the top there. You can see this is the length of my jumpsuit, so make sure that you measure yourself and know the length or how long you want your jumpsuit to be, preferably very long. The first thing you need to consider here is your crotch depth extension. Okay, now for the back piece, the crotch depth extension I used is 3 inches. This will absolutely work for a lot of people. Now as you can see here, I marked that and I ruled a straight line all the way to the length of my jumpsuit. Now that we have the back crotch depth extension sorted out, place the front piece on the line you drew, just like I did mine here. For the front crotch depth extension, divide your hip by 20. For me, I have 2.5 plus ½ inch for stitching allowance is 3 inches. Now make sure you do this for yours. As you can see here, I have ruled a straight line across of that. Now the next thing we are going to be doing is to take our body measurement. Also to the side, make sure that what you have here is going to be enough to contain all your measurements. Okay, now to take out your body measurement, I want you to take note that all your measurements are starting after this line here. Okay, please do not forget that. Now with this starting line here serving as the shoulder line, we are going to have a cut together shoulder and sleeve. So what we are going to do is to mark half of your shoulder measurement. For me is 8.5, and then determine how long you want your sleeve to be. For me, I want it to be about 12 inches. So I'm going to add half of my shoulder measurement to how long I want my sleeve to be. So the sleeve length I want to use is 12 inches. Now I'm going to say 8.5, which is half of my shoulder measurement, plus 12 inches. Don't forget to add ½ inch stitching allowance. This is going to give me 21 inches. So I just realized you guys are not seeing that. I marked 21 inches here, as you can see. Then I'm going to come down from this point by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'll be connecting this back into the shoulder line just like this. The next measurement we are going to be taking now is going to be our neckline for both the front and the back. Here I've already gone ahead to mark out the neckline. For the neck width, I used 4 inches, and for the back I came down by 1.5 inch and I connected it with a curve, as you can see here. For the front also, I used the same neck width, 4 inches, and I came down by 8.5 inch and I connected this. So now that you have your front and back neckline, the next measurement you are going to be taking is going to be your vertical measurement. Place your tape there at the shoulder line, and the first point you are going to be marking is your bust point. For me, my bust point is 11.5. I'm just going to mark that there, and the next measurement is going to be the waistline. For me, my waistline is 18 inches. I'm going to be using my free hand to draw a straight line across this because this fabric moves a lot and using a rule is going to be really difficult. So I'm just connecting that with my free hand. Now the next thing we are going to be marking here is going to be the hip line. So place your tape now at the hip line and mark your waist to hip line measurement. For me is 9 inches. I'm just going to mark that and connect that across this way. The next measurement we are going to mark is going to be our crotch depth line. Now when it comes to a jumpsuit, you really need to pay attention here. Your crotch depth line is going to determine how good your jumpsuit is going to look. So you don't want to mark crotch depth line where it won't be comfortable or where it's going to make your jumpsuit look funny. So I'm going to show you guys how you can do this to get a comfortable crotch depth for your jumpsuit. Now the first thing you are going to do is to divide your hip measurement by 4. You can see what I have there in 11.75. Now this answer you get, you are going to add 2.5 inches to that. So after adding mine, I have 14.25. So placing my tape there also at the waistline, I'm going to mark 14.25. Now this is how you are going to do it. Unless the person in a bigger side, you can add 3 inches. Now I'm just going to connect a straight line across of that. Also make sure you connect your crochet line into the crochet extension just like this, all the way to the back. The next is going to be the length of the jumpsuit, which we already determined at the beginning of the video. On the crotch depth extension, we'll be drawing our curve, and this is the crotch depth extension here. So I'm just going to be making a curve here just like this. So you can see how I did that. Now I'm going to extend it also into the back piece just like this. Now we have our crotch depth extension curve. We are going to go ahead and take our measurements at the side of the jumpsuit. I realized late that my camera wasn't recording. Well, what I did basically is at the place we marked the sleeve length, I just connected a straight line all the way from that sleeve length, and I stopped at the hip line. And as you can see there at the waistline, I came in by 3 inches. Okay, I came in by 3 inches there, and I connected it into the butt point with a curve there. Also from that 3 inches I came in by on the waistline, I'm going to connect this back into the hip line just like this. Okay, back into the hip line where the straight line I drew meets the hip line, just like you see me doing here. So I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to explain. Just to make this clear, I drew a straight line from the length of my sleeve all the way into the hip line. Then at the waistline, I came in by 3 inches, connected it into the bust point, and connected it into the hip line. Now that we have that, we are just going to connect this line all the way to the length of the jumpsuit. Now, so we stopped at the hip line, right? So you just continue to draw this line all the way to the length of the jumpsuit. And then you're going to go ahead to cut this out at the side, following these lines we drew. Also cut out the center front, following the line all the way into the crochet extension, all the way into the length of the jumpsuit. As you can see here, I'm done cutting out the side, following the line I drew. Now I'm just going to go ahead and trim off the shoulder slope, and after doing that, I'm going to also cut out the center part, following the line at the center, and then into the crochet extension all the way to the length of my fabric, just for the center front. Please take note. As you can see here, I'm done cutting mine out, and make sure that you cut out the neckline for the back piece before cutting out the neckline for the front piece. Okay, now what I'm just doing here is zipper shaping. First of all, take note of how long you want your zipper to be, and if you follow me on here, you already know how we do that. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out, following my zipper allowance all the way into the crochet extension, just like we did it for the front, and then all the way into the length of the jumpsuit, just like this. Now we'll be creating the tucks on the waist area, and to do this, the first thing we are going to do is to take out our stitching allowance, because we won't be including the stitching allowance here, so we need to take it out to know the remaining inches we are working with. So on this center front, I'm just going to mark 1/2 inch, and I'm going to connect it upward and also down all the way to the crotch length. Also on the side, I'll be taking out 1/2 inch, and I'll just be connecting that to upward this way and downwards. I'm just going to take the measurement of what I have in between here. Note that we've taken out the stitching allowance, so you're not including the stitching allowance in this. And as you can see here, I have 16 inches. Now another thing I'll be doing is to come up the waistline by 3 inches and rule a straight line across, and down by 2 inches and rule a straight line across. As you can see here, I've already done that, and you can also see here that I've already marked lines for my tucks. Now I decided to use 5 lines for my tucks. You can decide to use 4, you can decide to use 6, depending on what's comfortable for you. How to get a uniform measurement for these lines is you have to divide what you have in between your waist. For me it's 16, and I wanted 5 pleats, so I have to divide 16 by 6. If you want to use 4 pleats, you have to divide what you have in between your waist by 5. I hope you understand what I mean. So after dividing 16 by 6, because I want 5 pleats, what I had was 2.6. So coming from the waist side, after my stitching allowance, I marked 2.6 inches all the way to the end, and this gave me my 5 lines for my tucks. And you can also see here that I connected it to the 3 inches above and to the 2 inches below. Now it's time to create the tucks. I'm just going to explain this in the most simple form I can. We have to create tucks or pleats on each of these lines we have around our waist area, so that when we are done, what we have left is our actual waist measurement, thereby eliminating the excess fabric we have on the waistline. Now let's just practicalize it to make it more understandable. I'm just going to take the measurement of what I have on my waist again. What I have here is 16, right, as you can see. So just take the measurement of what you have on your waist. Now what you're going to do is to divide your round waist by 4. For me it's 32, as you can see here. Divided by 4, I have 8 inches. I'm dividing it by 4 because my fabric is on fold, as you can see here. Now this 8 inches is my actual waist measurement. Okay, now that we have 8 inches, what I have here on my waist is 16, like I measured before. Now I'm going to say 16 inches minus 8 inches, which is my actual waist measurement. So I'll know the excess fabric I have, and the excess fabric I have from my calculator, you can see, is 8 inches extra. Now what I'm going to do is, I have 5 lines here for my tuck, so I'm going to say 8 inches divided by 5. What I'm trying to get here is how many inches I'm going to pleat on each of these lines to get my tucks, and then after sewing it in, I get my actual waist measurement. Please don't get lost, stay with me. If you don't fully understand this, you can replay it to understand, or you just watch what I'm doing. Okay, so now I'm going to divide that 8 inches by 5, which is how many lines I drew here around my waistline, and I have 1.6 inches. Now this 1.6 inches, I'm going to be sharing it on both sides of the line I have here. So I'm going to divide 1.6 by 2, and that is going to give me 0.8. So I'll be marking 0.8 on each side of the line. As you can see here, I've stitched this down on my machine after marking the 0.8 inches on both sides. Okay, and I stitched it down all the way to the 3 inches I marked above the waistline and the 2 inches I marked below the waistline, as you can see here. Now I'm just going to open this to the front so you see what it looks like. Now this is what my tucks look like. I'm just going to turn that back. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for every other line I have here and the other side of my front piece. And also do not forget to stitch down your center front, as you can see that I've done here, from the neckline all the way to the crotch depth extension. Now after doing that, you can see how beautiful this came out. You can see the neckline there, and you can see how this tuck came out. If I take the measurement of what I have here, you'll find out that it's my actual waist measurement and the stitching allowance that is left here. Now we are going to go ahead and do the same thing for the back piece. Now for the back piece, we'll be doing the same thing, but first of all, you have to insert your zipper at the center back first, and also stitch down your crotch curve. Then also you are going to have to finish off the neckline. I'll be using a bias tape to do mine. As you can see here, I've already gone ahead to do that. Also, I've gone ahead to mark 3 inches above the waistline and 2 inches below, and I've ruled a straight line across just like we did on the front piece. And at the side, I've already gone ahead to mark out my stitching allowance. Taking the measurement of what I have left here, I have 16.5 inches. For the back piece, I decided to use just 4 tucks. I'll be using 4 lines to create my tucks at the back, unlike the front where I used 5. To distribute these 4 lines, I want to use evenly. I'll have to divide what I have there on my waistline by 5, just like I explained earlier. Okay, not by 4 but by 5. Then after doing that, you can see here that I have 3.3 inches, and I'm just going to be marking 3.3 inches all the way across, just like this. After doing that, I'm going to connect with a straight line to the 3 inches I have above and the 2 inches I have below the waistline. And as you can see here, it is 4 lines I have. Now the next thing we are going to do is to determine how many inches we are taking away from each of these lines here, so that when we are done stitching it down, we have our actual waist measurement. Now the quarter of my waist measurement is 8 inches, so the first thing you will do is to divide your waist by 4. And I have 8 here. Now I'm going to say 16.5, which is what I have on my waist here on the fabric, minus 8, and after doing that I have 8.5 inches. Now this 8.5 inches I got, which is the excess fabric I have, I'm going to divide it by 4, which is how many lines I have here. Now dividing that by 4, I have 2.12 inch. I'm just going to divide this 2.12 inches by 2 and mark it on each side of this line, and we are just going to go ahead and stitch it down like we did for the front. Now I'm done doing that. What is left now is just to stitch this down together, and as you can see here for the front, I also finished off the neckline using a bias tape. What I'm going to do first is to stitch down the shoulders, and then the next place I'll be stitching down is going to be this crotch area, and I'll go ahead and stitch it down at the sides, finish off the hem and hem the sleeves. We have come to the end of this tutorial. I hope this tutorial was really helpful and understandable. Please let me know in the comment section if you have any questions. Do not forget to subscribe, like and share, and also turn on your post notifications for when I post a new tutorial. I'll see you guys in my next tutorial.